Once upon a time, there was this little boy who traded a cow for some magic beans. His mother was upset with him. Why would you trade your cow for magic beans? And she threw them out the window. The next morning, the little boy woke up to find this huge green stalk stretching way up high into the sky. And he thought, I wonder where that goes. So he climbed up, and what does he find? But a huge castle with huge doors. And he goes inside, and then he hears, Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. Yes, today on The Wandering Crow, we encroach the subject of giants. Do they exist? Let's talk about it.
There is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept looking at it, pecking at it until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is dead Crow now. Join us as we attempt to look through the wandering crow's eye to find the gateway to the supernatural, to seek to know the unknowable mysteries of creation. Welcome to the Wandering Crow podcast.
Giants. Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
That was awesome, JT.
Is that good?
Yeah,
Excellent. Good thinking on your toes.
I'm just saying, Abby, you would be very cute with a pixie style shortcut. When I cannot see your ponytail, I'm like, man, she cut her hair. It's so cute. Do you see it?
Yeah, I do see it.
You've got the face for it. It's
very
adorable.
Tinkerbell.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it. Anyway, just saying. All right, giants. Just right out the bat, based on just little bits and pieces of things that Abby has said, I think I'm actually on Abby's side on this one this time.
Are we going to do the intro?
He did the intro.
Yeah, but the welcome back.
That's right. That whole thing. My brain.
Welcome back, Wanderers. We're having some brain farts here today, trying to come around on this subject of giants. Ugh. Are they real? Are they not? I don't know. Let's talk about it.
This is Abbey.
This is Mandy.
And this was JT. No, I'm sorry. We're keeping that in. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Screwed up the opening. Who cares?
No, I don't think it's screwed up. It's fun.
It's fun. It's
variety
flavor.
is the spice of life. Sorry, Abby. And did we say basically the same thing?
Yes,
I
we
think
did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, basically. With that, we're going to cut to some social media.
And the reality is, wanderers, murderers, that we don't have a lot going on social media. We have an Instagram account, we have a Facebook account, but we're not really on there very often because, mental health. Some great news, a great update is that we are available now on YouTube Music, which of course also means that the YouTube channel is up and has some videos, but that's all a bit of a hot mess right now. YouTube Music, great. YouTube channel on YouTube, not much to see there. Also, JT, you want to announce the other big news?
We're going to take a little break this summer in honor of the 250 anniversary of our country. No, not really. I'm just kidding. We're just going to take a little break. So this will be the last episode for a couple of months, and we'll be coming back to you end of summer, beginning of fall. We will definitely be around for Halloween. You'll want to come back for that. That should be fun.
I've already started recording some e-toy stories. E-toy space stories, not toy stories, at the request of one of our fans.
What were you saying about giants?
I think I'm with Abby. I don't think it's real. They're so fun. These stories are delightful and they are fantastic. And they tickle a little part of me that just really wants to believe that it could be possible. But in my research, all roads led back to Sasquatch. No matter what I did, it all came tumbling back to Sasquatch.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I was inspired. Today on the show, my name is Besla. And you may be asking yourselves, if you're not familiar with the old tales, who is Besla?
Yeah, who is Besla?
Besla is Odin's mother, who's famously a giant. And Odin
Oh.
himself is half giant, according to the old sagas. There's a lot of really interesting thought about how that possibly was mistranslated. And the giants of the old Viking tales were not actually mammoth people, but were something else entirely. I have a story about a supposed giant encounter which occurred in Kandahar in 2002.
Tell it.
Would you guys like to hear it?
Yes.
Yeah. In 2002.
Did you not? Oh, Abby's
we're
face.
saying-
Did you not hear about this?
I don't know. Tell me.
I
Let's
did.
find out. By the way, so she said I'm with Abby on this, but Abby had never even gotten a chance to say, I don't know. These giant stories are all just that. But
She
anyway.
didn't on air.
No.
Anyway.
No, I said it many a time off air. You guys, I almost was like, I'm not doing this episode. It's a walk-off.
It's a walk-off.
Abby and Mandy are not believers in giants.
It's fun. The stories are awesome.
I am the lone person, the lone believer here.
Are you really a believer, or do you just like the stories because they're fun?
I like the stories because they're fun.
All right, thank you. All right.
Well, here we go.
So 2002, you say?
This one is this one's made the rounds. I've heard it on multiple different paranormal podcasts. It is literally everywhere. I've been to Kandahar, believe it or not. I
wow.
did serve some time there, so it is very rocky, very mountainous, at least the area that I was in. Well, it's Kandahar, so yeah. So I was in Kandahar, and then sometimes I went to Tarankout, which is another place a little bit north of Kandahar. And it's got this huge, massive canyon that very much reminded me of the Grand Canyon, except not red. Like all of our rocks here are very, very they're very red toned, orangey, whatever. In Afghanistan, they were more like granite, kind of like that yellowy color. But it was beautiful. The scenery out there is gorgeous, and it's empty, and there's no people. And if you'll recall, Afghanistan is one of the most heavily land mined areas in the world because there's just been so much conflict there. So there's just a lot of places people can't freely travel.
Wait, when you say mine, do you mean
Landmines.
landmines, like explosives? Okay.
Yeah. They're just freaking everywhere.
Okay.
Just everywhere. It's one of the most unsafe places.
I was picturing like a big open pit mine, and I was like, wait,
Oh, no.
landmines.
No, landmines. Yeah. So here's the story. In 2002, in Kandahar, an American patrol had gone missing in the mountains, prompting a special forces team to investigate. At a cave entrance high in the hills, the soldiers reportedly found signs of the missing troops. This included scattered military equipment and even human remains on the ground. So there's scattered military equipment everywhere, bones and human pieces all over the place. And before they could really search further, according to the story, a gigantic figure lunged out of the cave and began to attack them. This creature was described to be anywhere between 12 to 15 feet tall, with a shock of flaming red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, and 2 rows of teeth in its snarling mouth.
Whoa.
Armed with a massive spear, the giant impaled one soldier, often usually only identified as Dan. So this soldier who was impaled has a name. He's just Dan,
Yeah.
with a single blow, which fatally wounded him. The rest of the unit, understandably being super freaked out and also heavily armed, opened fire, as they should do, unleashing their complete arsenal to bring this thing down. Allegedly, this took 30 seconds of sustained fire, rounds from rifles, and a 50 cal sniper rifle. That is a big freaking gun, guys.
Yes.
To finally bring this thing down. Once the dust settled, the soldiers were left staring at this massive corpse of the mysterious attacker. In the aftermath, they radioed for a helicopter and loaded the body into a cargo net to be airlifted away. According to the story, this corpse was then flown to a U.S. base and never seen again. Cue all of the conspiracists.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, and it was never seen again, right? And those exact words came out of your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, because we had to do all of them super secret tests on it, and the American public just can't handle that kind of information, everybody. A giant. It would blow everybody's mind so much that society would cease to function.
Yeah. Well, but it also conveniently matches any other story where somebody had a body and then it just disappeared in transit. I mean, the only thing that makes this story different and special is that our government actually were the ones who had the body last. So that just makes it extra convenient for the conspiracy theorists to just jump on it.
According to, Snopes eventually investigated this because this thing made the rounds and it was being retold as if it was true and real. Everybody's buddy was the guy who was out there, and he told me, he was there, he saw it, kind of thing. And there is predictably no evidence, which is precisely exactly the evidence that conspiracy theorists need to prove that it actually did happen. There's no evidence at all. Therefore, it had to have happened. They just covered it up that good.
True.
So what's interesting about this is when I kind of looked into it a little bit further, Kandahar is not super far away from Russia, and not Kandahar. I keep saying Kandahar as if Afghanistan and Kandahar are interchangeable. They're not. I'm sorry. Kandahar is in Afghanistan. Afghanistan was famously occupied by Russian forces for a super long time.
Mm-hmm.
Russian folklore has a lot of stories about giant people in their canyons and foothills. And so this actually could potentially be traced to folklore that was told by Russians about some incident or some encounter that they had heard of that then just took root in Afghanistan and thrived and then became American folklore over time as well. The Russians actually believed in these giant creatures so much that in 1958, the Soviet government actually commissioned a study and sent an actual legit guy. His name was Professor Boris Porshnev, and he's a prominent scientist. He's got a pretty good track record. He did occasionally want to study crazy stuff, but for the most part, he was a pretty straight-laced scientist. He wasn't into a bunch of nonsense. But in this case, there were so many stories from folks, people, and what he felt were like relatively decent clues anecdotally that he actually wanted to do an actual study. And they actually did. The Soviets paid some money to send him out, and they did an expedition in the Pamir region of Russia to try to understand what was going on. So it's just like a lot of interesting things that happen. But the most interesting thing is that these giants had the red hair. They often resided in caves, and any encounters with them occurred in caves. That the story itself, military aggression from our U.S. military, potentially what was substituted was the Soviet researchers were just substituted by U.S. special forces instead. And that the story just kind of had a little bit of a mutation, just enough to get it out there. Thoughts?
That's crazy. I have a kind of a modern story that I came across. There was this gentleman in Whistler, Canada. He lived there. His name was Andrew Dawson. And he was a TikToker, did a lot of TikToks. And one day he posted a video of Whistler Peak and how there was something tall and thin standing on the top of it, large enough for him to be able to kind of zoom in and see that there was something there. Now, it wasn't close enough to really tell what it was, but it kind of looked like a person. But it would have to be a very large person to show up like that. He filmed this thing and kind of posted about it, went back the next day to try to film it again to see if it was still there, because he thought maybe this is a radio tower, maybe this is just something, he was trying to explain what it actually was. And the next day he comes back and it's gone. It's not there. Now in his video, this thing's not moving, but he's like, what the heck's going on up there? So he kept thinking about it. He kept going by, and I don't know if he saw it multiple times or just the one time, but he eventually tries to go up on the mountain to check it out. Well, apparently there was some military personnel up there, or there's something military going on up there, and he's trying to get up there, and he gets basically stopped by this person and says, you need to turn around and go back. So he never really made it up to the top or where he wanted to go. And he had to basically turn around and and go back. Then he waited a couple weeks and then tried to go back up there again. Again, he was chased down by somebody and said, you need to turn around and go back. And then the weird thing that happened, and this is in April of 2022, he just stopped posting for like a month. Nothing on his TikTok. He was a consistent TikToker. He was really building a following. But for like a month, he was all of a sudden just gone. And he comes on and he posts another video where he's against a white background. And you could tell by the way that the video is that someone's in the room because he keeps looking and then looking back at the camera, then looking off, and basically says the footage is fake. I faked it. I faked it all.
Oh.
But he's got his hands in his pocket. He's kind of hunched over. His back is against this white wall with a light casting kind of a shadow on the wall of his body, just kind of very uncomfortably doing something. And that was the only thing that he posted. Another month went by, and then he posts another video that said, hey, that video I posted a month ago, I was forced to do that. It was real. My videos were real. That was a confession I had to do. And then I think that was the last video for a long time. And then he ended up dead.
Huh.
For real dead?
Supposedly, for real dead, like supposedly died of natural causes.
We have proof that he died? Like he really did die?
Yes.
Like all of these scientists who keep disappearing dead?
Yes. Like all these scientists that keep disappearing dead.
It very much reminds me of, what was that episode we did, Abby, with the creepypasta and the, what do we call it? Not IDG.
ARGs?
ARGs, thank you. It feels like an ARG, honestly.
Oh, yeah. It does.
The storyline, the appearing after a pause, everything I'm saying is totally without duress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine, guys. I'm fine.
Right.
You know, like there's something, I don't know, that's very ARG. And the thing about the story with the Kandahar Giant is it's supposed to have been originated as a creepypasta.
Huh.
So it does make me wonder if this is one of those instances where the general public who's not familiar with creepypastas and ARGs is thinking that these are real and they're not intended to be taken as real.
You know what it reminded me of?
What?
You remember back in our Bigfoot episode, I went on for a minute about this show that was like a 3-part series on Hulu called Sasquatch or something, and it was about Sasquatch in Northern California. And there was a guy who was a farmhand on, I want to say like a pot farm, right? And all of a sudden these guys come in who were supposed to have gone and done a drop or something or received the money for a drop. They come back frantic to the boss, just going on and on, stark raving mad about how they arrived on the scene for the drop or the transaction or whatever, and this guy is just like ripped apart to pieces. And it wasn't a deal gone wrong because the stuff is still there. It's been ripped apart and scattered everywhere. Like whoever came and killed this guy didn't take the product with them.
Oh.
Anyway, so the guy who was the farmhand who remembers seeing these dudes losing their shenanigans over this, he becomes an investigator. Well, he spends this entire docuseries investigating this town, trying to figure out what really happened back then and get to the bottom of it. And was it Sasquatch? And you want to know what it turned out to be? It turned out to be that there was such an influx of Mexicans, I think was the story, going in there and kind of encroaching on that territory in Northern California where all this weed grows really well and where apparently all these pot farmers were able to kind of get away with growing it out there somewhat secretly or not. I don't even know. Mm-hmm. And this situation, this whole like Bigfoot ripping a guy to pieces, I think what really happened was the guy that got ripped to pieces was trying to kind of stage a coup and take over this guy's turf. And so he had him offed and made it look like Bigfoot ripped him apart. And so that was like the big climax. Sorry, spoiler alert, everybody. All these months later, now that I'm catching up with you, it really was just all these pot farmers trying to like stay in control of their nice situation that they had up there in the mountains. And so this story about this guy going up there and stumbling upon something, and then people telling him, hey man, you got to get the hell out of here. And then this whole, him posting a thing under duress and then him disappearing after posting that wasn't fake, that was a coerced thing. It almost gives that it could have been real, but not in the way that we all think that it was real. That there was some shady business going on up in those mountains that he walked into and was advertising to the world on his account with a huge following. And they were like, you better forget you ever saw this and tell everybody else that none of this is real. And then he didn't. And maybe he's dead, or maybe he's not really dead at all. And the whole thing was just fake. I don't know. Yeah. But
I mean, and the cartels famously will rip bodies apart to send a message. So
right. Exactly. Yeah. Mercilessly.
It's business. They don't care.
Yeah.
Well, I have a segue to Mexico.
Perfect.
Go for it.
So as I was looking for different accounts, I wanted to know, have we ever found mummified remains or actual remains of real giants? Because we know there's pituitary issues where people have actual gigantism or whatever. Like, have there ever been maybe small pockets of populations where like genetically they had so little diversity that maybe large populations of people all had some of these genetic illnesses or whatever, or, differences? And I thought maybe I had found it, but it turns out I didn't. So there is another story of 34 mummified giants being discovered in Mexico. So this guy, he's this explorer. His name is Paxton Haynes. Supposedly he was trekking through the Copper Canyon region of Mexico in the 1930s, and he stumbled upon the mummified bodies of 34 different individuals who measured between 7 and 8 feet tall, and they all had blonde hair. And this is in Mexico, guys. So like predominantly not a blonde-haired population of people. This was in northern Mexico, 34 intact mummified men and women. The reality is, so this was talked about a lot. It actually played into some of the pre-Columbian legends of the area, the Kinametsin, which was part Nahua and also like an Aztec mythological story. There is no actual physical remains, no photographs, no artifacts. Nothing has ever come forward to actually verify this claim that these 34 bodies were actually discovered. But this is another one that people point to and say, well, officials can't have us changing the paradigm. People can't handle that giants might actually be real. So it was all hushed up. And so all of that evidence has disappeared now. And then another one is this discovery of remains in the Lovelock Cave in Nevada. And this one...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Supposedly, these were giants, and there were lots of stories about how these giants were found. Mainstream anthropologists and archaeologists agree there's no accepted scientific evidence that a race of giants ever existed.
There are lots of AI-generated giant skeletons on the web.
I believe that.
So I think the Lovelock Cave... There was an actual expedition, I believe, in the Lovelock Cave of Nevada. Mm-hmm. And also in a nearby region of Utah, there is this old story of conflict between the Ute Indians. And I don't know if Ute is their actual tribal name or not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ute.
Is it Ute? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if that was our anglicized name for them or their actual name for themselves. So there was supposedly this story told among the Utes that there was this cannibalistic tribe of giants that just terrorized the region, and that they had a very particular taste for human beings. And so part of their survival strategy is they would actually hunt people from the tribe. They would snatch people and run away with them, and that was their food. They would eat them. And it became so bad that several different tribes from the region actually came together, they created a plan, and they actually went to war against these giants. And the giants were called the Siteka. And after a while, lots of warfare, they were able to pin the giants down in this cave. And once they were trapped inside the cave, they set fire to everything and were able to kill them. Well, apparently, the story goes that there was an expedition or excavation of this cave, and that red-headed giant bodies were actually found in this area, and that it corroborated this story from the indigenous peoples. Well, come to find out, that probably it wasn't giants that they went to war with, but there was another rival clan that the indigenous peoples went to war with. But that story got kind of appropriated and conflated and inflated into this tale of giants, of people who were eating other people. And there has been no evidence that has been retrieved that actually proves that giant people were there, but supposedly the giants of the Sitika were redheaded, were huge, and they ate people. And the remains that were found were the remains of redheaded people. Well, I later found out that sometimes what happens, and most indigenous people have very, very dark, raven black, beautiful hair. What can happen over time is with the degradation of the hair, the melanin fades over time, and what you're left with is this reddish tinged looking hair. But initially it wasn't red, it just kind of became red over time. And as it sort of breaks down, I guess.
Yeah.
The Paiutes.
Well, that segues into my story that is based on Native Americans. It is local to Arizona, to the Superstition Mountains, which we've talked about on this podcast. But there is a story that comes from the Pima Indians, and there's multiple versions. There's a gentleman that was a docent at the Superstition Mountain Museum in Apache Junction, which I went to the other day. It was very fascinating, very interesting. So there's a story. There was a great flood in the area about 3,000 years ago, and the Pima Indians were climbing the top of this mountain to escape the floodwaters because there was a lot of, it rained for several weeks straight. So these Pima Indians, they were escaping, and they were climbing to the top of this mountain, and when they got to the top, they noticed they weren't alone. There were animals, and there were giants up there. And they said that all of a sudden, it seems like the clouds ripped open like a zipper. And these beams of light started coming down, kind of burning their skin, as if God was trying to prevent them from escaping from the floods.
Whoa.
But what happened was this light actually petrified these giants. And if you go up to the top of the Superstition Mountains, apparently there's hoodoos up there that look like giants.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of this story is that the Pimas and the Apaches and the Hohokam people of this area all were also plagued by a race of giants that were vicious, mean, and if they caught you, they would pop your head off like the top of a bottle and drink your blood.
Ew.
Just lift you up and just guzzle it. There's a story of a Pima chief that battled against one of these giants. And they've been battling these things for decades. And this is an oral tradition, oral story from the Pimas, retold. And this giant was 12 and a half to 13 feet tall. They ended up actually killing it in the Superstition Mountains. They kind of let the corpse sit there and just rot for a year, to where the Pima chief finally went and took one of his femurs and used it as a walking stick, and it was a big femur. So it was 4.5 to 5 feet tall, the femur. So this was a big, big creature.
Wow.
It's said that these creatures were living in the mountain, and they lived here right after the region, or after the volcano, or the volcano stuff kind of happened and then quieted here in the Superstition. Superstition's a very volcanic area, and there's still debate as to whether it's actually active or not. They still say it could explode. But according to the oral traditions, this chief only killed this giant 500 years ago. So it's quite recent of a story. Well, I mean, recent, 500 years, whatever, recent. But that's just kind of one of the more interesting stories that I found into giants and local giants. There were giants living in the Superstitions 500 years ago, battling with the Indians and popping their heads off and drinking them like a Coke.
What a time that would have been to be alive.
So exciting.
Let's go take some people shots. shots.
Not only are there indigenous people stories of giants, there's indigenous people stories of little people, all kinds of different ones. But that was one that was very interesting to me, that I loved. So have you guys heard of Devil's Tower in Wyoming?
Nope.
No, not at all.
You haven't heard of that?
Well, it sounds like it belongs to the devil. What does it have to do with giants, JT?
Well, there are theories that it is actually a giant tree stump. There's other mountains around the world, too, that kind of have a similar look to it. And so it kind of looks like a petrified, large tree stump. And the rumor is that giants cut it down.
I see. Like who could have chopped this tree down cleanly and left a tree stump?
Mm-hmm.
I have seen this before. This place it looks beautiful. It does look like a tree stump.
I've been there.
It's not a butte, because isn't that like what you're describing? Wait, what is it?
The Devil's Tower. There's actually a Native American name for it, too, because there's actually a Native American story regarding that, too, as to how it came to be. And I don't remember the name of it, but it had to do with the Indian tribe of the area running away from a giant bear. And the giant bear created the look of it by trying to claw his way up onto this mesa or platform or whatever you call it. But it is pretty cool.
Okay, you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Okay, so a butte, a mountain butte. Is that not officially what this is considered?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's got crazy striations.
Yeah.
Looks like a giant hunk of tourmaline.
It's a geological anomaly.
It does resemble a tree stump, though.
It does.
I'll give you that.
It's not.
The world's largest petrified tree, it says.
It also says it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
But apparently it made the social media rounds for a while that it was a tree. It's a gorgeous thing, though.
It is. It's very pretty. I've been there. It was very nice.
Back to what Mandy said earlier about how the claims that conspiracy theorists want to make for giants and against the scientific community is that the scientific community just can't handle the fallout that would happen if it turns out giants are real. And I just want to know what fallout they think they're talking about, because scientists are like nerds for this kind of stuff. They love new discoveries. I mean, I get it that every time something especially wacky that contradicts the cultural belief, i.e. the world is round or the world is flat, i.e. the earth actually travels around the sun and not the other way around, i.e. you name it. I feel like we've talked about this before. You're supposed to pasteurize your milk, and you need to refrigerate your meat so that the flies can't lay their eggs in it. And it's not just some sort of magical thing that's having maggots pop out of your meat. But I just think about what are the implications of giants possibly being real? And the only people who have anything to gain from giants being real, as far as I can understand, are people who want to slow scientific discovery and want further validation that mythological stories are real.
In fairness, that guy that I was telling you about, the Soviet Commission, where they were looking for giant people, this guy, Professor Boris Porshnev, he treated it seriously and he was going to use a scientific method and he really wanted to track down the evidence. Is it true or is it not true? And he was very open-minded about it. But several other of the scientists in his own team said, this is garbage, but this is a great opportunity for me to study these rare plants that we can't normally get to. And since the Soviet government's paying for it, it's perfect. But all of this giant business is bullshit. And like flat out said, like, this is bullshit. There's no such thing. Because the paradigm exists. And the people who have something to lose are people who have built their entire careers on an idea that we have built science on. So like giants, I honestly think like, so what? Like that's fairly easy. It's just another tree. It's just another offshoot of the family tree that we call humanity, right?
Right.
But like Göbekli Tepe is an example. For a very, very long time, there was this paradigm that humanity did not build giant monolithic structures until at the earliest, maybe like 9,000 years ago. But then Göbekli Tepe in Turkey surfaces and they did carbon dating and they're like, holy shit, this is from 12,000 years ago?
Yeah.
12,000 BC? 12,000 years ago. It was like 3,000 BC or something like that.
Yeah.
Math, guys, I don't know. But it's 12,000 years old. Like they have been able to prove it's 12,000 years old. And there's all of these other structures across the world where these fringe scientists have been trying to say, I have evidence to support that these structures, like there's one in Asia somewhere, and there's a couple of others in different areas scattered around like Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean. But people could not, because their egos are in the way. I don't believe that. I've written books. I am an established professor. I am respected. My theory is the one that is correct, who stand in the way of anything different happening. Because if something different happens, suddenly all of the things that they've done and accomplished are negated and they're forgotten in history. So like some of that I'm drawing from Graham Bell and his, the apocalypse thing that's on Netflix. But Göbekli Tepe is real. And it really has changed the way that scientists are perceiving human history and human evolution.
Yeah.
Because if we were capable of building that thing 3,000 years before we really thought we could, what else have we been missing? What else did we brush away? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and the reality of the matter is, though, that guy was able to be heard and the scientific community opened up, and it didn't really take him too long, though, right? Like he had a few naysayers who were like, man, no, but I say differently. But in general, it didn't just become this big cover up that died. Eventually, he was able to get his word out there, and other scientists were able to vouch for it and say, oh my God, he's right. And oh, yes. And then it caught on and it spread, and it wasn't this huge deal. It now, like you've said, it has now reshaped. I feel like science is constantly evolving and pivoting according to new discoveries about what we thought we understood.
I mean, if it's being done right, it should. It's supposed to. But Göbekli Tepe is accepted. But some of these other places, I don't think people are really re-examining and reevaluating. Göbekli Tepe was fresh and new.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of excitement around it. But I don't know what's happening with these. Hopefully, because of Göbekli Tepe, we can look back at these other structures and say, okay, maybe there is something to it. Maybe Graham Bell and all of these other scientists, these French scientists that he was interviewing, maybe there is something there. I hope, but I don't know what's happened or not happened.
There's active work in Egypt and the pyramids, and they're doing LiDAR scans and different things and finding lots of information, lots of stuff. There's theories that the Great Pyramids they actually produced chemicals. Like ammonia and stuff. But they keep scanning and digging, and they're finding that these structures go way deeper than they thought. They even think that there is another Sphinx that is buried underground close by, and it kind of mirrors the one that we found, but it's been buried over time by all this sand, dirt, and stuff.
Yeah.
I think to go back to your original point, Abby, really, is it the American, or is it the, the public in general that can't handle it? No, I don't think it is the general public. I think it's egos of other people who feel like their livelihoods are threatened, and that it's a convenient excuse that it would cause too much pandemonium.
I think that's what certain interest parties want us to believe. They want us to think that there's these villainous cartoon character scientists who are just like, man, like, you can't say that because I studied that. Yeah.
Say.
I'm right.
You can't
You're
tell me what
wrong.
to do, see?
No, don't listen to him. Only listen to me.
Yeah. Let me put my monocle back in.
What I read, this was the only research that I really did, and it was about a week or two ago, honestly, at this point. Yeah, Mandy's got a monocle.
Oh, there you go. There
I
you
am
go.
evil.
Yes, Dr. Evil over there. Was actually, and again, I don't want to sit here and harp on this too long, but
Live action role play.
all of this junk about, the Smithsonian has fossil records in their basement that they're not releasing to the public about giants. That all started, apparently, that was the aftermath of certain people being very upset with the Smithsonian's exhibits on evolution and the pushback that the Smithsonian received from some of the public over their evolutionary displays and teaching evolution. Yes,
Mandy
ma'am.
won't say it. I won't. But we know.
And then later, those same exact groups starting rumors about the Smithsonian hiding fossil records of giants and suppressing evidence which could prove that biblical stories are real. And therefore, this is just the scientific community trying to suppress, the big science-y oppressors of religion, trying to suppress what we want you to understand about the Bible as being true. And so it's really interesting to trace back, to learn about some of these rumors, but then to furthermore learn about how they started, to go deep and dive into the debunking of it and who was behind these rumors. Because this whole narrative that, the government, a friend of mine called me out and I said, I don't believe in this giant stuff. I don't really want to talk about this. And she was like, yeah, but I mean, the government said that aliens weren't real. And it turns out that they knew that they were all along. So I was like, you got me there. Mandy, what is that?
I don't know. I'm so anti-government sometimes that I can't believe anything they say ever.
Well, yeah.
So I don't think that they think that aliens are real.
But also in this case,
I think
it's
convenient.
not really our government saying that giants aren't real.
Yeah. They probably don't have an official stance on giants.
That's not even a real thing. Yeah.
There's no press release coming. We have no evidence of giants.
That was something interesting that I found, that I never knew. The story of Noah was tied to giants.
Really?
I did not know that either.
Nephilim.
Noah and the Nephilim?
Nephilim.
Or maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. I could be pronouncing it wrong.
Nephilim, I think, is right. In the Bible, Genesis chapter 6, there is a story of when human beings started to increase in number on the earth, there were daughters born to them, and they were fair, meaning they were pretty. And the sons of God saw the daughters, and
Angels.
they married any of them that they chose. And all it really says is that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. And when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them, so these are the children of the gods and human women.
The angels and human women.
They were heroes of old, men of renown. But that's when the Lord was like, humans are evil. It's time to wipe them out. And Noah gained favor in the sight of God, and then God saved Noah and the animals, and wiped everybody else out.
Wait, so is this, oh my, what version of the Bible is this? I'm so sorry. I thought
This is from the
is this like a Mormon version of the story?
No,
Because
no,
I
no,
heard
no,
it,
no.
I remember reading it differently.
It's from the old Hebrew Bible. And that's just a generalization.
Oh, okay. So Noah and the flood was because of giants, because of
Not
the
necessarily
Nephilim.
because of giants, but because the angels were mating with the humans, and God was like, no, humans are evil. We're done with this. You can't go that. You can't do that anymore, and wiped them all out.
And the angels were the giants?
No.
No.
So the version of this story that I remember reading, and I don't know, this was when I was Lutheran for a little while, when we were kids. So I don't know what version of the Bible it is. I'm sorry, full disclosure. I don't know. But I have a Bible and I read it, and this was really interesting to me. The daughters of men were gorgeous and beautiful, and angels had decided to take wives from them. That's the same story. That's all tracks. And that when the angels and the daughters of men conceived children, they were these giant monstrosities, and they weren't heroes in the version that I read. They were often evil and extremely powerful, and they caused havoc on earth, and they were a challenge to God himself. And God could not stand the side of the Nephilim. The Nephilim were the abominations, not humans necessarily.
Oh, okay.
So at least in the version that I read. So,
Okay.
Whatever, there's different versions, right? But
Yeah.
in the version that I read, it was the Nephilim that were the problem. So God set out to strike them from the earth, and he forbade angels from taking wives among the daughters of men ever after. So anyone who had the blood of the angels or who was part Nephilim was smoted, was destroyed or whatever. And they were removed from the earth. But that was supposed to be like an explanation for where these giant people came from, and that historically these giants did exist.
Which version do you think makes more sense?
I don't know.
Well, in the version that I'm reading, it's the old Hebrew Bible. It doesn't say angel; it says the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful.
That's interesting.
And it's one verse where it says Nephilim, and that's it. It's only mentioned like once.
I feel like that story kind of makes more sense because it's like ultimately either way in both stories, he wipes out all the humans other than Noah and whoever Noah has aboard with him. He's just like, get rid of them all.
Yeah. Do over.
The other one just kind of sugarcoats it a little bit and only really talks about, but he really was worried about these guys. So let's just focus on that. It's like a distraction from the fact that everybody else was expendable too.
Well, the version of the book that I read, Noah and the ark happened much later in history. The Nephilim was something that had happened early and was not like a consideration when Noah and the flood occurred. So that's partly also very interesting too, that in this Hebrew Bible, those are one and the same. Those stories are tied together. But in the book that I read, those were very separate. Those were separated by thousands of years of time, as far as I could tell when I was just a kid reading it. So not a Bible scholar, don't know, but that was the way that I took it.
You don't have to be a Bible scholar to see right then and there, like, wow, the variations between these two books, between the origin story and this version being taught, indoctrinated amongst some of the branches, are so wildly different. It's like, hello, people are just changing these stories and moving everything. But here we go again. We're talking about stuff.
Talking about Christian stuff?
No. It's just because it's giants, though. It does tie.
It is.
Christian things.
And it's we're talking about Christian stuff. Yeah. It is interesting to compare the different versions of the Bible. And it does automatically, to me, it comes critically, okay, well, here's further proof that these are stories written by men. Written by human beings who are just taking the stories and modifying them as they please to fit the times or to change the narrative according to what they want taught. And that's what I see in here in those versions of the stories. Giants, it always seems to be that giants get fought. Even today, when people use the term giant, it's always a metaphor for, an obstacle, some great adversary.
Larger than life.
It's never literal now. And it makes you wonder if it was ever meant to be literal, other than, like we've said, maybe certain offshoots of societies where people did have the genetic predisposition of being huge, which is what my 9-year-old said before I started recording.
Smart little 9-year-old.
She was like, isn't it possible that there were just dudes who were like 8 feet tall? I was like, yes.
Well, apparently that's Goliath was only 8 feet or 7
feet,
over
because
7
the
feet.
average man was like
Yeah.
5 foot.
Yeah.
Right.
So that would have seemed ginormous.
Yeah.
Right. But the
Right.
tallest man ever in the world ever recorded was Robert Wadlow from Alton, Illinois, at a height of
Wow.
8 feet 11 inches.
At
But
what
he
feet?
had 8
8
feet 11 inches.
That's a tall dude.
It was caused by his hypertrophy of his pituitary gland, which led to an overproduction of growth hormone. That's why he was so tall.
Enlarged.
Yeah.
There is actually somewhere in Seattle, Abby, maybe you've seen this on one of the piers somewhere. Or no, is it Seattle? Shoot. Maybe it's Santa Monica. Damn it. I don't know. Some pier somewhere. I've gone with my family. There is an exhibit that has a shoe from one of the tallest men in the world. It's like so freaking big. It's like my whole like forearm could fit in that sucker. I could not believe. And that's like, I'm not a small woman. That's crazy. So I could easily see running into some guy just randomly in history like that, how that would cause awe. That would cause people would not know, like, oh my God, this is he must be magical. There must be something. This guy is a warrior of all warriors. Like, yeah, I could see that happening.
I could also see how people could embellish the size of people. Oh my God, he was like 12 feet tall.
The size and the might.
Mm-hmm. Well, we lost because they were just literally giants. I'm sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it had nothing to do with our skill. They were just, how did we beat those odds?
Right. Or this is how spectacular our hero is, that they were able to defeat this foe despite how huge they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One way or the other. Heard it both ways.
And you know what's interesting? You brought up the Scandinavian giants.
Oh, I'm ready to go, JT. Go for it.
There was actually a show, I think, on Netflix that the Norwegians produced, and then they dubbed it into English, about a kid becoming Thor, and how there was in this city, the people running the city were the giants, and they weren't actual giants. That's what they were called. They were called the giants. That's who Thor and his people were fighting, were these giants. So it's kind of interesting. It was a good show.
I'm all queued up to talk about the Jotnar. Can I talk about the Jotnar? Okay, so in Norse mythology, the giants were called the Jotnar, and they were supposedly these ancient primordial beings who predated the gods. They weren't just gigantic, but they were also like created the cosmos. Like they were the architects of the world. And in fact, the very first giant, Ymir, his body was used to create the world and to create like the first rivers, like the blood that oozed from him, and his bones created the mountains. And like there's like a whole story about this in the sagas, right? Not only that, but then there's this race of giants that Odin and Loki and any of their little misadventures that the Aesir or the Vanir were like coming up against an enemy, they were giants.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was first getting into the sagas and I was listening to Jackson Crawford kind of talk about it, he mentioned that giant may actually have just been like a nomenclature for a different tribe of men, and that over time we lost that meaning somehow and we took it to mean literal giant. Well, I wanted to read more about that because Odin himself, his mother, I said earlier, her name, she was Bestla, and she was said to be one of the giants. Loki also part giant. They're just supposedly running all around, and they're also supposed to be extremely wise. And there were times where they had treaties with them. There were times where they would host each other in some of the stories and not just go to war. Well, it turns out the biggest piece of evidence for the theory that giant was just a translation error is the original Old Norse word Jotun. It does not mean tall person. It actually means devourer or glutton, and or injurious one or piercer. So when Christian scholars came in and they started translating the Norse myths into languages like French and English, they weren't really sure what to do with this translation. Like, I guess there wasn't like a direct translation for these people. So because of the way the stories were being told, they compared the giants to the titans of Greek mythology and said, well, they're about the same. And so since the titans in the French were called giant, which we now say giant, they said, well, that's close enough. And so they called the Jotner the giant in the French translation. And then eventually it just sort of became this accepted translation that Jotner was giant, because it just got mistranslated into the French this way. But probably what they actually were, according to some of the research I read, were the Sami people. And the Sami people were feared, and they actually were a shamanistic culture, unlike some of the, like the Nordics had magic, don't get me wrong, but they were shamans. Like in the truest, strictest definition, they still do practice shamanism. And it's one of the few unbroken lineages in the world. And I got very excited and I super geeked out about this because Odin was half giant, right? So maybe he was half Sami. The other thing about Odin that we know about was he took on the role of a woman. He took on the magic arts that traditionally were reserved for women, and he trained. And that is how Odin became so powerful magically, was he learned this female art of magic from other people. And they say that he learned it, I think, from Freya and the Vanir people. But what if actually it was his own mother's people? What if he learned it from the Sami people? And the oldest shamans we know from the linguistics of it and from the different items that we have that archaeologists have been able to dig up were female. The oldest shamans were female.
The witches.
So I just think that's so interesting, because I have always suspected, based on the old stories, that Odin was a very rare and maybe one of the first male shamans of that area. And he learned the magic from some other shamanistic culture. And I feel like this supports my theory. And it's not my theory. Probably it's other people's theory, and I'm just now learning about it. But it's like blew my mind, because I have always believed it.
That's really cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I don't have much more to add to the Odin thing. I almost feel bad pivoting back, because that is a really cool point. But you going on about the giants, the yont and the yodel, it it just takes me parallel to a conversation that me and my kids have been having. Okay, to bring this back down to a more, it's not really modern. Okay, The Hobbit.
Oh yeah, Hobbit.
The Hobbit, the book versus the movies. In the movies, you've got the goblins in the mountain, and then you've got this pack of orcs that are hunting down Thorin and the band, the crew of dwarves plus halfling. And that whole part that they added into the movie, I assume to help create more adventure and length and intrigue, is not at all in the book. And I briefly got into an argument with my 13-year-old about how there are no orcs in the book at all. And he was like, yes, there are, but they're only mentioned in the very beginning because you learned that orc is actually the old word for goblin. And so throughout the rest of the book, they're only known as goblin. And so it's just kind of parallel to what you're saying here, is how they were just this one thing, and there was just a synonym, a different word for it in this other language. But then somehow we created this entire different like species of character out of this term that are completely different from each other. I mean, not somehow. For the movie, it was obviously very much a device to help lengthen and create more interest and intrigue and character development and emotion. But in this case, it's the telephone line of time and language where just the definition of a thing moves.
It's amazing how that happens, right? Like, you just miss one little thing, or somebody develops an idea about it, and it just becomes the accepted. I feel like I've said the word paradigm a bunch of times today, but it becomes the accepted paradigm. It's the accepted school of thought, when really it's not. That's not what it was. It just sort of became how we think about a thing.
Yep, yep, yep. Well, I think I can safely say that I am outvoted 2-1 that giants do not exist. Unfortunately.
I think really huge people existed.
Yeah, I believe that too, but
I think it's possible, but there doesn't seem to be evidence right now.
there are giant things on the earth, but it's like a giant squid or
Yeah.
other things. There's a whole thing that I didn't get to. It's called Antarctica and all the crap that's the lore and the conspiracies about that, the hidden cities, the hidden giants, I mean, oh my gosh, that's like a whole topic in and of itself.
I'm willing to concede that maybe there some of these old stories. It's like the way Mandy talks about Bigfoot and how the indigenous people have all these stories, or they have numerous words to describe this type of thing, or the different subsets of this type of thing. And what if it's all true? What if it is all true? I think whatever. It's neither here nor there. I think, to me, it's the conspiracy theory part of it, that there's some vast cover up to hide it, is the goofy part. I think that it would make me believe a lot less in Sasquatch if people were out there going like, oh, there's some big government conspiracy to cover it up.
Oh, but there are. It's just not a big part of the theory. But there are people who believe that the government is covering up discoveries where that there have been bodies and they were hidden.
Well, I'm gonna go out into the superstitions this fall and search for giant bones.
Do it.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it during the middle of summer because I don't want to die, but
It's too hot.
in the fall I might go. Might die anyway, but you never know.
Yeah. Mountain lands.
This is Superstition Mountains.
Bring a gun.
All right. Thanks for listening. And remember again, if you've gotten this far, that we are going to be taking a break. And so we will see you next time on The Wandering Crow. That's not a giant.